is a huge honor today to be interviewing a legend in the Crown and Bridge ceramic world, Pinhas Adar. And I want to read your bio. It's amazing. You're a master ceramist who was born in Russia, studied initially in Tel Aviv, Israel, at Oryad Shapiro, and then did his internship with Mr. Willi Geller in Zurich, Switzerland. He returned to Israel to complete his master's degree in dental technology. He has over 30 years of experience in all phases of dental laboratory technology, specializing in many facets of porcelain aesthetic restorations on both natural teeth and osseointegrated implants. Mr. Adar has lectured and presented live television programs in the United States, Europe, Israel, the Far East, Australia, as well as a multitude of programs nationally on the multidisciplinary approaches in optimizing aesthetics. He has the unique privilege of working and teaching with many leaders in the field of aesthetic cosmetic dentistry in interdisciplinary settings and many different cultural backgrounds. He has the distinction of being the first ceramist to address an international meeting of the American College of Prosthodontists. He has contributed chapters and texts on posterior ceramic restorations and porcelain laminate veneers, published by Quintessence Publishing Company. He contributed text to multidisciplinary book, The Art of the Smile, published by Quintessence, as well as numerous magazine articles. He has produced educational DVDs for the dental industry on different topics entitled Porcelain Laminate Veneers, Crowns from Vision to Reality, and Trial Smile. Pinhas, it's an honor for you to be here today with me.
Thank you. It is my pleasure and privilege. Thank you for thinking of me. But by the way, how did you get hold of me? I mean, how did you hear about me?
On Dental Town, many people have talked about you. If you went to Dental Town, we have a little search. That little magnifying glass search thing. If you just type in your name, you'll find every time anyone's ever mentioned your name.
Really?
Yeah. And by the way, for our viewers, that little Google search box when you have a website. So we have 4 million posts. That's a $50,000 box from Google that we plug into our mainframe, and so it's just like Google. So it'll pull up, it'll search those 4 million posts in like 0.03 seconds or something crazy. But hey, I want to tell you, we're both the same age, even though you look about 10 years younger than me. I must have had some hard Sammy Davis Jr. years to when I look at how young you look, but. You and I have really seen a lot of changes in dental laboratories in our lifetime. I mean, when I got out of school, they said there were 14,000 dental labs in the United States. Now they're saying it's only about 6,000. When I got out of school, CERAC 1 was not very good, then CERAC 2. But now CERAC is up to, the numbers range from 8 to 13,000 units in America. Where do you think Crown and Bridge Laboratory is going? Because my theory, well, I want to hear yours. Where do you think Dental Crown and Bridge Laboratory was when you got out of school? Where is it now, and where do you think it'll be 10 to 20 years?
Well, Howard, my humble beginning, I started when I was 14. So I started a long time ago. So I had high mileage as well. So I've seen a lot of stuff. But nothing really changed dramatically from psychological aspect of the dentistry because, those days when I started, people were in fear. The fear at the time was people were afraid to teach other people, so they're hiding their skills not to share so they can have job security. Right now, there's so much information on the web, you can learn anything you want, basically. So the things change and progress, and technology obviously changed our life. But technology shouldn't threaten us to be replaced by them because we still have human feelings, human emotions, and that's what really sells. So technology is great if you capitalize on it. How many people have smartphones, for example? Even homeless people have smartphones, right? But how many people use the smartphone as a smart device? I've seen so many people just get addicted to it and watching the news or Facebook or play games. So technology in dentistry, it's the same thing. It can either build you up and create leverage for you, or will destroy you by fear that you're going to be replaced, and that's what's happening. So there's two classes. Basically, what I think there will be a fast, productive, like a Walmart of dentistry, which is fast, insurance-based and managed care, and laboratories that go into that trap and go after fast and quick and cheap. Because how cheap is cheap? I know Glidewell once is the largest lab, I guess, in the world. And he made a video that says that most laboratory technicians will be replaced by machines. Well, I don't really agree with him. But I agree with him that it will create leverage for laboratory businessmen who understand business and use the technology properly. And he said that his fees that he charges $100 maybe today, it will be 50% less in 5 years from now. So there will be two types of dentistry. One, that kind of dentistry. The other one will be fee for service. And that part is maybe about 5%. I don't think it's a huge market, but it's a huge market in my opinion because lots of things will be replaced. The crowns that you see fast, those things, even now, I see them replaced. I've seen CEREC, it's a great system, as you mentioned. It's growing, it's awesome, it's better than when it first came out, like you said. But those restorations are being replaced even now. So what's the problem? Is that a problem because it's CEREC or it's a human error? Because you still need humans to operate the machines, right? And a dentist has to be capable of doing the artistic part or the human touch. They have to spend the time or train someone to do it. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but it's a global answer I gave you. So hopefully we can break it down and help some people with the answer.
Well, what you first started talking about was that there's more transparency, that 30 years ago people were trying to keep it almost like a trade secret.
Yes.
And now there's more transparency. I would say that's true in all 9 specialties except for orthodontics. Orthodontists didn't want to communicate on Dental Town like oral surgeons and endodontists and periodontists said. They wanted their own website, OrthoTown, and you can't get on there. I can't even get on there, and I'm the owner of the website.
Wow.
It can only be orthodontists. So most of the specialists realize that they want to share their knowledge with you, knowing that you'll do all the simple cases, and then to pay them back when you get the difficult wisdom teeth you can't pull or the difficult root canal, you'll refer to them. I've also, all the other patterns I've recognized in my half century on Earth is that it's a pendulum swinging from right to left, right? It goes too far to the right, then it goes too far to the left, and back and forth. And it seems like all the errors were when people just thought it was a trajectory. Like take the stock market from 93 to 2000, and everybody just kept thinking stocks were going to double every couple of years, then it crashed. And I sometimes wonder if the pendulum is starting to come back on CAD/CAM because I see, you're supposed to be patient focused, and I see some offices where they get a CAD/CAM, they just think they're not going to use the Crown and Bridge lab anymore, and then someone will come in with a broken tooth, and they say, well, we don't have 2.5 hours to do that right now, so we're going to reschedule you. And I'm like, you bought a piece of technology, and now you're rescheduling a patient to fit your technology? I mean, I have CEREC, and sometimes I use it, and other times I don't, and, it's moderation is the key to everything. Absolutely. And yesterday, we did 12 crowns, and only 2 were CEREC, and 10 went to the lab. I didn't have time to make 12 CEREC crowns, and also multiple units. I still don't see how CEREC makes sense if you have a person with 2, 3, 4 individual crowns in their mouth. That just doesn't seem logical to me. But I think most business people in the United States have always analyzed the market that half of Americans buy on lowest price, and the other half pay value added for market differentiation. So I think the labs are going to do fine for those people who really want the value added, especially if cosmetics is big.
Absolutely. You can look at it 2 ways. And so many people call me and say, hey, what does your lab work cost? That's a typical question. How much do you charge? Or what is it? My particular answer is always to the dentist is, for you, I don't charge anything. It's zero. And most doctors get shocked. Like, say, what do you mean? Do you work for free? I say, absolutely not. But you don't pay nothing. But for your patient, it's a different story. So I give them a separate estimate because typically when you have fees for service, you trade time for money, the skills, the talents, the intellectual property. So there is lots of things added value that some clinicians may not put value in them. So I want anybody who listens to this to understand one thing, that first of all, it's possible. It's possible for them to have a different position in this marketplace. The fact that you watch TV and you talk to the negative friends and colleagues doesn't mean that you have to be their situation. it's possible for you to open your mind and reconsider what's possible for you, because I've been doing this for over 36 years, and people told me, like, you're crazy. I mean, nobody's going to pay you that much. Absolutely. If you think that way, you're right. So you don't never know what patient's ability is to pay. And I'm not going to say, every patient is going to pay for it. So either you can have a cost for great quality, or it can be very costly bad quality. So there's a difference between cost and costly. Because I've seen so many cases that people spend the money on big cases. We do lots of implant cases, for example, hybrid, protals. I know that you did some interview with one of our client and friend, John Heimke, about protal. And there's so many different varieties out there. People selling them from like 3,000, 2,000, and there's a range of 10,000, 20,000. So in a lab fee service. So I tell the doctors, say, either it's going to be costly, which costs you more, or it can cost you something that is going to be great, makes you proud. So where do you want to be? And that's the question you have to ask for yourself.
Well, you were born in Russia and lived there till you were 9, so you could probably write a book on the difference between communism and and free enterprise. And the thing that is always an error is to see a single market where everybody has the same price, the same car. I mean, Henry Ford, that was his single biggest mistake. He only made one car. It was the Model T. And he sold 10 million of them, but then General Motors came and said, you know what, we'll do the Chevy, and we'll compete on price against the Model T, but for $100 more, there'll be a Pontiac. For $100 more, there'll be an Olds. For $100 more, there'll be a Buick. For $100 more, there'll be a Cadillac. And that 5 price point market segmentation closed down Henry Ford's Model T assembly line. And no one seems to talk about that lesson. They always say Henry Ford invented the assembly line, which he did not. But General Motors was probably more innovative than Henry Ford, and there's always going to be market segmentation. I call this Dentistry Uncensored, so I like to ask the most uncomfortable questions I can, because that's what humans don't want to talk about. They all want to be nice to each other. Tell me if this hunch is true. I've had many dentists at many bars over the years tell me this, that when dentists sent their impressions to the lab, and the crown came back and it just wasn't perfect, they'd send it back. And labs tell me they'll have anywhere from, the average is about 6% send back to redo. But then when they started making their own crowns themselves, and they started CAD-camming in their office, they started cementing stuff they would never accept from a lab. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that statement?
Well, humans are creatures of rationalization. Okay?
They can rationalize anything.
So what does it mean, rationalization? Let's dissect that word. That means that humans telling themselves rational lies to themselves. Basically, you create a standard. Let's say if CAD/CAM doesn't provide the quality that you wouldn't accept from a human being, you say, well, it's a machine, so it's okay. For a machine, it's not bad. It's not bad, it's bad. Not bad is terrible. So you decide what standard you have to live your life, because the way you do things one place, you do things the same way on the other places. So you have to have, it's a habit. So if you raise your bar, and the biggest tragedy of life, it's not that people cannot aim high and succeed. They actually aim themselves goals that are very low and actually meet those expectations. And with Crown and Bridge, it's the same thing. So they create their own standards, say, okay, well, that's great. The machine made it. Look at that. I did it fast. It's cheap. I cut down the lab fee. So the rationales, they're telling all these crappy stories to themselves, and they are bad business people thinking that way for several reasons. One, because it's going to fail. That's one. So you're going to lose confidence. Some other doctor's going to see them and say, oh my God, who did that? So they're going to redo that case. For a patient, it's not a good service because they're going to redo it. It's going to cost them more, right? So you have to think about the patient. Don't think about the machine or what corners you're going to cut. Because we are in a business of helping human beings. We are in a business, in people business. So we have to treat people as people, not as a commodity or as a number, or how much money I can make from them. So that's a thought process, and it's a mental game, really. But you have to really have your values straight. Because if you compromise once, you're going to keep compromising. And then really, when you go back, go to bed and sleep, you know you didn't do your best. And when you feel that way, that's your lifestyle, then you're going to go down the wrong road, because then your self-esteem deteriorates. You're destroying yourself, really. I mean, okay, you cheat one person, you screw him up, okay, fine. But then what happens to you? The biggest damage happens inside you. You don't even know. It's a slow process. 20 years from now, you're not going to feel good about yourself. You may have lots of money, but you're not going to be fulfilled because you did those things. That's my opinion. But
okay, my next most uncomfortable question. You're a handsome, good-looking guy. I mean, you are. You're an attractive man. So, and you do high-end cosmetic dentistry. Here's a dilemma that many dentists talk about all the time, and that is when you see, girls. I live in America, so mostly American girls. There's nothing natural about their look. I mean, they have fake eyelashes, they have breast implants, they have makeup, and all this crazy stuff. And then when they go into veneers, a lot of dentists are prepping back the veneers, and basically they do veneer preps, and it's just dentin on 10 teeth. And a lot of dentists tend to say, well, everything's bonds better to enamel. Why aren't we doing minimally prepped veneers and bonding on enamel? And some of the cosmetic gurus say, well, now you're thickening the tooth. And it's like, well, doesn't breast augmentation thicken the breast? Doesn't dermafill and Botox? And I mean, do you really think on an attractive woman that prepping veneers, staying in the enamel, and thickening the buccolingual distance of the tooth, do you think that's a cosmetic negative, or do you think it works? What would you do if it was your own daughter and she said, Dad, I want 10 porcelain veneers? How deep would you prep it?
absolutely, it's a great question because it's a dilemma. Patients don't know what damage you create in their mouth. They don't know what's enamel, what's dentin. They don't care. They won't look good. As a professional, it's your responsibility to educate them, not really dictate for them. I mean, you can refuse to treat them. That's one. Somebody else will. But you have to educate them in a way that it's three-dimensional. What do I mean by that? So let's say we have a case where we can plump out and make it fuller smile, like you said, without much preparation. In many cases, we can do that. But how you're going to visualize that is basically take an impression. I mean, computers are great. You can do imaging and stuff. That's good, first step. But if somebody wants to bite, you don't really have to create imaging and stuff. What you want to see is if it's possible. And the way you do it, you have a study model where the laboratory or the dentist himself waxes it up as a smile design, builds it out the way he thinks it should look like. Then they will create silicone index of that, and then fill up with acrylic and try it in the mouth. It's a process that takes maybe about 5 minutes, 10 minutes the most. So once the wax up is done. So once they try that, then you have an idea how those plumped up smiles going to look on her lips, behind the lips, how it functions, how should they smile, is it adaptable, do they like the look, the big look? And if that's the case, great. Then you don't have to touch so much teeth and get rid of the enamel. You can actually do prepless or minimal prep. So that's how you evaluate if that's a good prepless case or not. Because sometimes if you build it out, they look ridiculous. And I know some people like big breasts, but big teeth, you have to function with it. You have to talk with them. I've seen people who have uncomfortable teeth sticking out like that. So you have to check that in a temporary stage before you even prep the teeth. And then that will become your mock-up or your guide to how much tooth reduction do you need. Because quite often you can start prepping it through that mock-up, and in some cases you don't have to touch the tooth, which preserves this enamel.
Well, every major religion says treat other people like you want to be treated. And I notice that dentists always do orthodontics and bleaching on their daughters. And then so many non-daughters get veneers.
Yes.
And so I always call... If a dentist wanted to talk to you or see your work, how does he...
By the way, Howard, do you know why they don't do the veneers on their family?
Why?
Why? Because they don't like the lab work. They use the cheap lab. I'm just kidding.
Well, how does someone talk to Pinhas himself? How do they get a hold of you if they wanted to see your work? Because I noticed you have two websites. You have Adar .net, and then you have AdarSuccessAcademy.com.
Yes.
Where explain to my viewers the difference between two websites.
Well, anybody who wants to see, I mean, obviously, website is the easiest way. They can access adar.net, and there's three basically directions you can go there for patients information. They can also access the smile gallery, implant gallery, and they can see the pictures of some cases that we've done before and after, some of the processes. And you know, people, whoever, if it's a consumer or dentist, check our website. They look at what's possible, what we do. But the other thing is, they have to see the value or the difference. Because, you know, so many people don't see the difference. It's crazy. You know, and that's how I qualify a dentist or a patient. I show them different scenarios, different outcomes of different laboratories, and I say, hey, do you see a difference? That's the first question I tell. I don't explain to them what I do, what I'm capable of. It doesn't matter. They don't understand anyway. So that's my first question. Even the dentist. And then the next question is, what do you see? That's my question to them. What do you see? I want them to verbalize so they can see and have emotional connection to what I show them. And then the next question, the third one, is always, what is your preference? So basically, I eliminate myself because most people, when they're talented and they're good and they provide great service, they tend to talk a lot, tell about how great they are, how much they can do, and they see all this detail and everything, and it goes over their patient's head. My communications basically is, let's clarify that we'll see the same thing. I want to connect their heart, because most people live their lives based on the stories they believe about themselves, right? So my job as a communicator is really to distract that story, asking the right questions, and then dispute it. Create dispute between the stories that they tell themselves, and then inspire them to what's possible. And that's my process. That's how I know if I can work with somebody, it's the right teammate or not, patient or dentist.
And then what's on the AdarSuccessAcademy.com? That's for dentists or lab techs or both?
It's both. It's both. It actually has more than both. It's also for public, because me and my wife Debbie, who we mentored by Les Brown, he's one of the #1. I don't know if are you familiar with Les Brown? Les Brown is a motivational speaker.
Oh, is he a friend of yours?
Well, he's my mentor. Yes, yes. So we've been mentored by them.
Email me howard@dentaltown.com and email him and introduce us.
Okay, yeah. Well, he does motivational speeches, but he also teaches how to speak, how to present, and so we've been mentored by him. And so our effort with Success Academy is to help many different people in different levels, because everybody's stuck in some ways. You know, some may be successful in one thing, but failure on the other. They may have lots of money, but they're overweight and almost dying, you know. Or
you're talking about me at that time.
No.
No, I can tell. I
haven't seen your body. No, but you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you have to have several success strategies for different parts of your life, not just one. So what we teach is those principles and strategies how to get there. So for dentists, it's basically on dental topics, and we have communications, so skill sets, mindset, and a tool set, what to do with all the knowledge. Because if knowledge was the only thing everybody needs, Howard, you know what? Everybody will be rich, skinny, and happy, right? But that's not the case, because information is no longer necessary because we all have it. It's what to do with the information, how to be more focused, how to not be distracted, especially this time and age. I mean, it's so crazy. We get distracted like every 3 minutes. And it takes about 11 minutes to gain concentration. So we all walking like zombies. If you look at the airport, you see people walking with their smartphones, they call it smartphones, and walking like zombies. They don't know where they're going. But anyway, Success Academy is really catered to many different laboratories as far as skill set, for dentists as well, and then the public for relationships, and also...
It's also the cell phone is one of the fastest rising causes of accidental death. People are texting as they're walking into the street.
Absolutely.
Getting zapped by cars. You know, my first failure in life is I wanted to become a butcher, but I didn't make the cut. But you know, when I look at your you have all kinds of DVD. Talk about your DVD program. You have porcelain laminate veneers, crowns from vision to reality, trials, smile. Tell me what those are all about.
Well, at one stage in my life, you know, I was traveling. I had like 50 hands-on courses a year. 50. I was like gone every other weekend, like different hotels and teaching skills. And what I found that people that come for seminars, for hands-on workshops, they go back home, And sometimes they use what they learn, sometimes they don't, depends on them. But they forget most of the stuff that they learn on the weekend because life takes over, they're busy in their job, so they don't really implement. So what I thought about, well, what about if I create something that is valuable for laboratories, dentists, or assistants that they can actually watch their own time, step by step, that can help them to upgrade their skill sets. But you have to work with the DVD, watch it and do it, not just watch it. It's not a love story or anything. It's just a skill set. So if you practice and practice, if you do only 0.3% a day, typically you end up being 100% better than you were when you started. So that was my idea. To have
what was that, 0.3 a day?
Yeah, we'll give you 100%
in
1 year.
In 365 days?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I love that. I've never heard of that. 0.3% a day.
That's all you need.
We'll give you 100% a year.
Yep. So if you want to be 100% more in a year, just do 0.3% daily. That's it. It's a habit. It's compounds, and that's what I've done. I mean, I'm not a genius. I'm just.
Well, you know, my mission is to help the homies. That's why I started Dental Town in '98. But we put up 350 online courses, and they've been viewed over 500,000 times because there's 205,000 dentists registered on Dental Town from all around the world. So I was looking at DVDs. One thing you might want to do is you could put them on Dental Town and sell them there too, or you could put up a teaser. I know. How long are these DVDs?
Some of them are 2 parts, so it could be like hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. The Trial Smile, I think it's about maybe 1 hour.
Yeah, email. I'm Howard Farran. The guy in charge of our online continuing education is Howard Goldstein in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. But if you email him, Hogo, Hogo, at farranmedia.com or at dentaltown.com, you might think about that, because I would love it if a lot more dentists from around the world watched your stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I want to ask you another uncomfortable question with Dentistry Uncensored. Sometimes when you're in Britain, London, dentists will jab you. I was lecturing at Ireland, and they were saying, man, what is it with American women, the whiteness of teeth? I mean, American women just want too white. But when you travel around the world, there are other countries that are really into super white. Like Jordan comes to mind. Some of the Middle East countries. What countries do you think like that amazingly white? And what countries look at that as like, well, that just looks too fake. I want something more natural. I want something darker tones. Or do you see the whole world going to bleach shade whites?
I think it's a mindset switch, because when I first started lecturing on veneers like 30 years ago, and I was overseas in Europe, for example, Germany, Switzerland, the comments were like, oh, those stupid Americans, they don't know how to do crowns. They do this fake fingernails. I mean, stupid white teeth, like all white. And today, actually, one of my mentors, Willi Geller from Switzerland, he does mostly white teeth himself. So what happened, they were pretty stubborn at the time because they were younger, but now he's about 70-something. So he knows aging process is inevitable. So people try to stop the aging process. And how do you do it? I mean, it's subjective. How white is white? That's the question. How white is white? There's a translucent white, there's gray white, there's all those 50 shades of white, right? So, and what's natural anyway? I mean, as you say, people have makeup, they have, hair colored and all the other stuff that they do. There's nothing natural. Natural is what you believe in. It's how you see yourself. So, I mean, our job is not to force or dictate to a consumer what they should have. It's like if you want to have a white car and you go to a dealership and say, hey, Howard, I think you should go with the black car. It looks more natural. Like, I mean, it's your car. Well, you get what you want, right? You want white, you get white. But there is a variation of white. So what gave a bad name to white teeth is when it's artificial looking. And there's more happening now with all those implant cases with the zirconia, because zirconia is very reflective. Even dark shades, they reflect because it doesn't very bright product. And so with that, you'll see, and one of the patients, the way I know that, because when they've done this Pretau bridge, for example, it looks horrible. And she couldn't even smile. She was embarrassed. And I asked her, so how do you feel about it? And she said, well, I didn't really like it, but I was embarrassed. It didn't look like teeth. It was really bright. So when we redid that Pretau, we gave her some little layering and more natural white. Ask her, so how do you feel about that new set? I mean, and she said a word that I like is she said, now it's a believable white. See, believable white versus, she called the other one, she's a runway white, runway like a flashlight. It was so bright. So, I mean, that's the thing. I was listening to my patient, and she mentioned that that's how she described. So there's no right or wrong. I mean,
okay, I want to ask you another uncomfortable question. When you're talking, I mean, we're talking about just high-end aesthetic people. You know, I'm thinking women. Maybe that's a bias I have because I'm a man. But when you're thinking about a high-end aesthetic anterior case, you know, all the data I read is about 85% of the anterior crowns are made out of Emacs.
Yes.
If you were trying to do a really high-end aesthetic case, would you do old-fashioned feldspathic stacked porcelain, or would you do Emacs? And can you really get a really high-end restoration by milling a monochromatic block?
Well, I think, I mean, we have ways and strategies to what to do with monolithic. And if you look at our website, you'll see some monolithic stuff we do with Zirconia.
And which website would that be? Adar.net?
Adar.net, yeah. And yeah, it's a Smile Gallery or Pretao Implant Gallery. You can check it out. But, you know, we have a certain things. You have to work harder, the monolithic, to look really natural. It's harder to do that. But it's possible, and it's pictures. I mean, you know, the results don't lie, right? But to me, I think I still prefer to have a minimal layering on non-functional areas. For example, on Emacs or Zirconia, we have a little cutback on the buckle, on like a window cutback, where we layer ceramic, create the illusion of more depth. So it has a little bit more gain with the lighting. It looks more natural, more deep, not just monochromatic.
And that would be feldspathic stacked porcelain?
It's actually Emacs ceramic. It has to be compatible with basically Emacs. It's not feldspathic, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you put feldspathic ceramic on Emacs, it's going to crack. So you have to have their own coefficient and expansion so it fits with the Emacs. And there's several companies who have ceramic.
But if someone was just going to have just TED upper veneers, would you rather go, you know, stacked porcelain, or would you rather do CAD CAM?
Well, if I have the way I categorize my decision making, because I do all of them, if I have too much reduction, let's say it's 0.5 or 0.6, it's very thin. What I would do, if it's naturalness, it's very key for the patient, because I ask them, I will create a trial veneer. Sometimes I create trial veneers for shade selection for them, just to make sure that we can go a different direction. Because you can have a, let's say, bleach shade go artificial or believable, whatever you want. So I'll show them before we even do it, so they can select. And then, so a thin space, I prefer if it's natural, I'll do feldspathic, because I can layer all the layers from the base out. Now, if somebody's grinder and, you know, we don't have much space, the teeth color is fine underneath, so the substructure looks fine, then I would do Emacs because it's stronger. So even though it's monolithic, I use maybe empty shades, basically, or HD, or something more translucent ingots, and do thin veneers, and that's fine too. But it's stronger than feldspathic. But if I have lots of space, lots of room, and we create volume and build it out, or the teeth prepped quite a lot, and we have millimeter thickness, I'll go definitely Emacs because it's stronger, it fits great, and you can always go back in the oven. Because one of the problems with feldspathic ceramic or veneer is once you try it in the mouth, you don't like it, you cannot go back in the oven to modify it. You cannot add ceramic to it unless it's low fusing. So it's harder to manage that. With Emacs, it's easier.
I'll never forget, you know, when I was little and we went on vacation, me and my 5 sisters would pile into mom's station wagon, and he liked to go to amusement parks like Six Flags or Disneyland's, but he always liked to go to places where they made stuff. So we went to, you know, Coors and watched them make the glass bottles, the beer. We went to, you know, car company, everything. But I kind of picked that up, and I remember taking my kids way back in the day. It was to Bob Ibsen's place, Denmat. Yeah. And I was surprised when they were making the porcelain. They actually had these like big dryers, and they'd throw these boulders in there, and these boulders were just spitting all day long, and the dust was the feldspathic porcelain.
Yep,
Is that still how it's made?
Yep, that's how it's made. They grind it, they mix it up, they put the pigments in there. Yep, that's how it's done.
And these guys would fly to quarries all over Mexico and America looking for specific rocks. And
yep.
I mean, that was just I was like, that was just crazy.
It's fascinating. Yeah. Yep.
So what is I think in your lifetime, the biggest change you saw was the collapse of the PFM. I mean, it was. I mean, what percent of the crowns you made in 1980 were PFM, and what percent of them are now in 2015 PFM? What would you
Yeah,
say?
I would say today I haven't done PFM for almost 20 years.
Oh my! So you were always ahead of the
Oh,
time.
oh yeah, oh yeah. 20 years I haven't. I mean, I like PFM. I've done it. I was good at it, but so many challenges, time consumption. I mean, right now, I mean, it's the easiest time because we have CAD/CAM, which does a great job with fit and milling and leveraging human capacity, basically, because they can do faster and accurate. But then we have trained partners and employees that do amazing job the way we train them to give the human touch. So we have a both world, but we can do it more of it. So it's more, we offer like a different price point. So it's more affordable now, you know.
Okay, you're talking to several thousand dentists right now, and I want all the dentists to listen close to what you say because this is a very important question. You're on the other side. You know, we send you the impression. Would you, as an artist, would you rather have a polyvinyl siloxane, a polyether impergum impression, or would you rather have an oral scan emailed to you? Because there's oral scanners out there now, and a lot of dentists are saying, I can't tell if this is bleeding edge technology or leading edge technology. And just because it might work for my end, how is those oral scanning impressions working at your end? And in your heart, what would you rather play with? A digital deal or an old-fashioned analog material impression?
Well, I think if it's only single units, I think digital is fine. You don't even need to have a model. I mean, I think with technology, we can get and tweak the strategy so it fits. Because you try several times, and you'll see how it goes, because you have to tweak some strategies in a computer, make sure they fit the same way that the doctor likes or whatever. So you do that, single units, no problem. We don't need that digital scan. We can execute a crown without even model. That's one. But if you have multiple units, and you have contact points and all the other stuff in multiple teeth, I would rather have either digital impression where we can print the models so we can check it, because we have to have worked something. And then if you have a big arch cases, I definitely prefer to have a model so we can articulate and kind of look at different things and work on something that's solid and double check it before it goes to the mouth.
And what oral scanning impression systems do you think are there today? What are your favorites? Name brands.
Well, I mean, iTero still does a great job. I think lots of people use that. Lots of oral surgeons have iTero because they can even take like a implant impression same day when they place the implant and send it to the lab, and then 2 weeks later they have a temporary made.
And that's owned by Danaher?
iTero, I believe so. I'm not sure. I know it's an Israeli company.
Is it in Israel, iTero?
iTero is Israeli. They started from there. Yes, it's technology.
Are they in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv?
I think it's near Tel Aviv.
Okay.
Near Tel Aviv, yeah.
So you like iTero, and do you know how much that cost?
I think the prices come down maybe 20-something thousand. It used to be higher. Yeah, 20 plus.
What other systems do you think are there today?
Well, you need to look at if it's a closed system or open system, because I think a CEREC is a closed system, and there are ways to upload the files and so on. You have to have a CEREC user to be on a database to get the files. So I would say if somebody wants to use digital, to consider openness of the system. I think that's important for me, because otherwise you're stuck with one product, you know, and certain labs.
And what then it's like black and white, yes, no, up, down, left, right. Exactly where from a single unit to a multiple unit would you like full arch, upper and lower impressions? I mean, is it at 2 units? Is it 3? Is it a Brit? You know, what?
I think more than 1 unit, to me, I would like to have impression.
Full arch? Yeah. 2 units?
We do lots of quadrants. If you're good at quadrants, it works for you, great. I prefer full arches. The reason is because if you try to modify something, let's say a premolar is a lingually inclined, you don't know what the other side looks like. So you need to have both sides to kind of compare, and then you can be more smart. Are you building it out or pull it in, what the other side looks like? So you need to see where the other players, your teeth, look like before you do even 2 units. I mean, that's to me, but some people don't care. It just
And exactly what impression? I mean, so I'm an old guy. I'm 53. I've been on polyether. I've been on Impergum, which is 3M because they bought SP. Do you like the polyether Impergums, or do you prefer the polyvinyl siloxanes? What do you like to work with?
we have both type of clients that use either. What I tell my clients typically is use whatever is good in your hands, because what happens is, if you're uncomfortable with the product, you're going to have more pulls, more bubbles, more, you don't know how to manipulate the product. Don't switch unless you have a problem. So I'll tell clients, don't switch. If it works, don't change. Now, if you have a digital option, you can do both. You can do one impression the way you normally do and one digital, and then we have both. We can expedite the process. So we can start scanning, start designing, milling, everything else. By that time, the crown is ready, the model will be ready, and you can double check on it. I like that. That's me.
And that's really has to be the answer, because in Japan, they take alginate 10 times more serious than we do. They keep it refrigerated. They have really high-grade alginates. And some of those guys do beautiful crown and bridge work with alginate. Is that true or false?
True, that's true, yes. Alginate is a great material for impressioning, but you have to be respectful about the properties and temperatures, moist, mixtures, all the other stuff.
And Americans really never got into the culture. Like, if I go in a dental office, 9 times out of 10, the alginate's stored in a closet. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you go to Japan, it would always be refrigerated.
Yes.
It's far more serious. And some people still just put a scoop of alginate in there, then add water under a sink. I mean, they're not even measuring it.
Yeah,
in Japan, it would be the temperature would be controlled, the water and they pay for high-end grade. I want to ask you another uncomfortable question. When you go to lectures and you see the fancy prosthodontist lecture, it seems like they're always doing face bows and articulators, but the people in the audience, a lot of them will groan, I don't even know where my face bow is. I have an articulator from dental school. I don't use it. Talk about, when is standard of care a face bow transfer and a semi-adjustable articulator, or et cetera? And when is it just overkill?
Well, I think there's place for everything, but going back to the lecturing and other parts, I mean, typically, I've been lecturing for many years, and I know most of the speakers out there, and I know what the real dentistry is like versus the stage dentistry, for sure. so there's two realities, and that's what I tell.
And that's a big reality difference,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell my audience always, I say, guys, this sounds great, but is it real, or is it just for you guys to show what's possible? I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you show them what's possible and then you tell them that, hey, the way I do it in my office, this is this way, and it works. So because lecturing is become a business, people make money. I mean, that's what you charge for lecturing, and they have to show their best stuff. They don't show, they don't pay you to show bad stuff, right? And so the audience need to be not intimidated. So they have to ask questions, engage with speakers, say, hey, what do you do on a daily basis? Because if you visit some of the clinicians that they do daily, it's completely different. I'm just telling you now.
Oh, I know. You and I both know that. Some of them have been showing the same case on stage for 25 years.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
But so you're talking to, I think podcasters have exploded so big because they're multitasking. Right now, they're all driving to work. That's why we do an hour. Because our market research says, I got an hour commute. So tell these thousands of individual dentists, when do you need a face bow transfer and send it to you, full arch impressions on a semi-adjustable articulator, when would you want that?
I think it's a case that's more complex. People who we open verticals, they have joint problems and so on. I mean, we have to be careful when we open the bite. So Facebook may be a good suggestion for those kind of cases, so we can plan the case, open the bite properly, mount them properly in articulation. But to me, what was the biggest and easiest way to transfer information is digital photos. I love stick bites, with the midline, with the eyes parallel to the floor, with the stick bite. It's simple, it's easy, and that way you don't have a cant in a midline. I mean, this is for cosmetic reasons. But if it's a functional reasons, Facebook, I think it helps. You manipulate the jaw, you have devices in the meantime to open the vertical. and then you transfer that to wax up so you can mount them in the right articulation. And there's so many different articulation that are good, SAM, Panadent, and Artex, and there's so many of them. So each doctor has their own. So you just have to make sure that the lab knows how to use it too.
So remember, 95% of our views on the podcast are sound only, and my job is to estimate what questions someone might have just heard. Explain the stick bite one more time in detail, because you were showing me a lot of facial things that they didn't see because they're just hearing. Explain the stick bite again in detail for a sound-only dentist.
Okay, so for sound doctors, basically stick bite is a bite registration when the patient bites, and you take a little stick, a wood stick or any stick that you have, and then you position before the material sets in their lips, in the mouth, and look at their eye levels and kind of parallel that to their eye level so it's not canted. And then take a picture of that face, make sure you have release from the patient, obviously, because of HIPAA. Take a picture of that and send that to the lab so they can see the patient's face, how the stick bite relates to their eyes. So when they do the incisal position, the midline, they can relate to something that they see in a picture. That's, to me, was the biggest and easiest.
And for you, Pinhas, if you got 100 cases coming in that were a full mouth complex reconstruction, what % of those the doctor would have sent a face bow?
I would say today I have probably 50-50. I would say
so half.
Yes, half.
So half would send.
Yeah.
And are those more likely to be prosthodontists?
The prosthodontists, some of them are not. They actually go to COIS training programs and they learn those things with their articulating system. Some are go to Spear. So there's different class of dentists. And, occlusion, it's like a cult, if you didn't notice, right? I mean, there's this occlusion philosophy and that occlusion, and there's neuromuscular. I mean, there's so many. And, if you put them all together, start arguing, it's going to be a war. So,
let's talk about that, because when you and I, and I want you to go into this after the occlusion. I want you to go into take us to schooling, take these dentists, take us to the wood chipper and give us a spanking on how much reduction we don't give you, how much you need. That'll be my next question. But I want to stay with the occlusion since you opened the box. I have always thought, since first day of dental school in 1984, that occlusion is more like voodoo and religion. I mean, when we talk about reduction, there's science for that. You can say, okay, for this material, I need 1 millimeter. For this material, I need 1.5 millimeters. But when you talk about occlusion and you say, well, show me your data, show me stuff published, show me facts and gravity and math, there's not a lot. And the arguments on Dental Town about occlusion are literally batshit crazy. And yeah. I have a bias against all the occlusion camps that you're probably all a little bit crazy and you probably all don't have a lot of science to stand on. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
I agree. I think there's a lot to it. But again, what you believe in, that's what you're going to do, right?
Because when you chew, your teeth never even touch. There's a bolus of food in between your teeth. I mean, and then some of the occlusion people, you can tell they've never done one single case of orthodontics because, I mean, look at orthodontists. The orthodontists blow out the curve of Speed, the curve of Wilson. They flatten everything out. They pull teeth. And these kids go on to lead normal lives their whole life. And then, so I don't know. I probably just got a lot of people to delete the Howard, my podcast said, oh my God, blasphemy. But it is crazy.
But it's the same thing. We talked about white teeth, big teeth, how white is white, how big, what occlusion is right. I mean, I don't know. It's subjective, I guess. Everybody has their own belief system. And you can argue with it. You can argue about it. I just don't waste time. I just listen to them and I learn from both sides.
Okay, I want to capitalize on the other end of this impression. If you kicked over a bottle and a genie popped out and you said, I have 3 wishes for my incoming impression, what would it be? Would it be not enough reduction, more reduction? Tell us what we should work on and think about so that when we send you impressions, you can do a better job.
Well, I think it's not more reduction or less reduction. It's a proper reduction at the right places. See, that's the difference. Because I've had so many doctors prep a lot of tooth structure, but in the wrong place. But when it matters, it's very little. So you have to have the vision of the outcome. Basically, you have to have a vision of the final product. Once you have that, you reduce the tooth according to that outcome. not what you think or hope the outcome is going to be. So that's why the wax up or planning the case is so important, because in some areas you may not need to prep tooth because you're building out so much. Some areas you have to prep much more. So that's what I believe every dentist should learn, to create a vision first. If it's single tooth or multiple teeth, doesn't matter. You have to know if you're building the tooth out, don't prep the buccal as much, right? Make sense? That's the only thing. So you can go based on one principle, and then we need about 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeter, depends on the product that you're using. Typically, 1.5 is good. But now, if you have a dark teeth, sometimes we have to block it out different ways. There's many tricks we can use. Either opaque the prep tooth, you can internal bleach, you can do lots of different things to the tooth before you send it out. Make sure you can block out that darkness. Or use different product as a restoration choice. Don't use translucent product, because what happens to many people, if you don't show the lab the tooth preparation, and they use, let's say, Emacs that is translucent, then that darkness will shine through, and then the patient will have a great tooth. So you have to be careful. The laboratory needs to know what the structure looks like. So send them a photo of a shade top or stump shade, so they are on the same page. And if they detect there's a problem, they're going to call you and say, hey, doc, I cannot do Emacs. Is that okay if I use Zirconia? Because you cannot switch product for the dentist. You have to make sure they know you're going to switch it from the Emacs. If they prescribe Emacs, give them Zirconia. Although it's going to look the same, it's a different product. So make sure you know.
Okay, I hear a lot of dentists have a lot of simple rules of thumb. A lot of dentists are saying you need zirconium on molars, and then you use Emacs, second bicuspid forward, then call it maybe an aesthetic health compromise. Do you think zirconia, did you agree that molars should be zirconia and bicuspid forward Emacs, or can you do Emacs on a first molar?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've done Emacs on first molar. If you have enough reduction and the patient doesn't have habit of grinding, that should be no problem. But typically that's exactly the case. I mean, lots of people prescribe molars, zirconia, sometimes monolithic because it's stronger, they've been doing it so long. And then sometimes we do minimal layering on non-functional areas for the aesthetic on the buccal. That's about it. But blending Emacs to zirconia, that's a tricky part. Because Emacs has more depth, more translucency, and zirconia is more reflective. It looks more brighter. No matter what shade it is, it's brighter. So you have to know how to... So
if you were doing a full mouth and you were doing Emacs, second bicuspid forward, you wouldn't mind Emacs on the molar if they weren't a Brux or grinder, if they didn't have a lot of occlusal problems. You would just Emacs the whole case.
Absolutely.
And what would you cement that with?
Typically dual cement, something that you can bond, either light and self-curing. So it's Avocalar has a nice composites. 3M has a nice composite. I think Bisco has it. There are different products. I mean, and again, that's the question of doctors say, oh, what should I use? What product? Use whatever product works for you.
And do you think that's a lot of Zirconia's appeal, is that you don't have to bond it on, you can just cement it? Do you think that's a big part of the appeal of Bruxer? I mean, do you think dentists are in love with it because it's actually that much significantly stronger than Emacs, or that they can just cement it? I mean, obviously from our end, it's a lot easier to cement a crown than to bond it.
Yes, cementing it is probably number one reason, because nobody likes to do bonding, dual cement. I think Fuji Sam, GC has a product that it's a composite type of materials for cementation. It's a self-cure. I mean, that's by itself. That's easy to clean, and you can use. I mean, I know Emacs doesn't recommend to use that, but I've done some, and some doctors of mine have done it. It's in my mouth as well, and it's still in the mouth. So.
And GC, what he's talking about, GC stands for General Chemical, and they're out of Japan.
Yes,
and the North American subsidiary is GCC, General Chemical Company, and they're based out of Chicago. So you're in Atlanta. Are most of your that's a big thing. By the way, I was wondering, is Phoenix and Atlanta about the same size? I mean, because I just flew over to I was at Greater New York. I came home via Atlanta, and I was looking out that window. Man, that is a big town.
Yeah, it is.
Are most of your dentist clients in the Atlanta metro area?
No. I mean, Atlanta, I have a very unique relationship with, because I mentor lots of clients of mine, because, dentists need other needs besides the skill set. they need the mental mindset, mental toughness, basically. So I train them with that. But I have clients all over the U.S., in Europe, Israel, overseas. Communication is so easy today with Skype, digital transferring of data, iPhone videos, and so on. I mean, it's much easier. So I have clients all over the place.
But you said Atlanta, you had a special relationship with what?
Because I have some clients that ask me to mentor them to be more profitable, more effective with their patients, with skills of communication. So I took some challenge on myself this year and went after a few clients, and I said, okay, I'll be on board if you're on board, but I have to interview them before, make sure they're the right client. Because some people want to change, but they don't want to do nothing about it. So I have to see their commitment, exactly what their objectives are. And then the whole team, I train the whole team, not just the dentist. Because dentists without a team, it's not a success. So they have to be on the same
And are those mostly Atlanta Metro dental offices? Or
Yes.
Yeah?
Because I cannot travel to do that for now because I'm so busy with my lab and we're scaling. But with mentorship here in Atlanta, it works. It's great.
Man, I cannot tell you how much I wish you'd make an online CE course about that on Dental Town. I mean, you'd have people watching it from here to Kathmandu. I mean, it's such a huge distribution. 205,000 dentists. So think about it. Maybe sometime you do that, you'll film one of them.
Definitely. I'll definitely love to do that.
So what if a dentist, besides going to adar.net or adarsuccessacademy.com, can they email you? Can they phone call you?
Absolutely. Yes.
What is your email? I see you have two.
Yes, there are two. My personal one, it's my first and last name, pinhasadar@mac.com. And the company email is adar.net.
So the email. What would the email be to adar.net? Just info@adar.net.
Info.
Info@adar.net.
Yes.
And what about my homies listening to you in Georgia? Tell them about where are you at in Georgia?
I'm in Marietta, Atlanta. My headquarters is actually in Atlanta, but I have a home office and I have other collaborative relationship with other labs that I train. So we have to grow our business based on collaboration with other existing labs. So I trained them for over 30 years, and we're partnered that way.
And what would you say? I only got you for 3 more minutes, so
sure.
I have lots of young kids, and a lot of them are thinking about wanting to go into the lab business. What would you tell a young kid today who was 20 years old, who said, "I want to start my own lab"? What would you tell him? Do you think that's a future if he were 20, that he could start a Crown and Bridge lab and do that till he was 70 years old?
Well, I mean, I think it's a great business. I believe anybody can succeed, but you have to have certain qualities. And if you're 20 years old and you don't know much about the lab business, I think it's better to learn from somebody who does. So get mentor. I think everybody needs a mentor. I mean, I have my mentors. I have many different mentors that help me to be who I'm going to become. So if you want to go somewhere, just learn from somebody who's done it, not somebody who talks about it. Second part, I would say you have to ask yourself, why do you want it? Because when things get tough, you may quit. So just make sure you want it bad enough. And you have to be hungry. You just have to be hungry. It is possible, but you have to be really go through.
And then my last question, I only have 2 minutes left with you. Man, isn't the dental laboratory training so different in Germany than it is in America? And as an American, I have to tip my hat to Germany and think, I think the Germans do it better. Is that right or wrong? Do you agree or disagree?
Yes, definitely. The Germans have the best master schools where they train the technician not just about cosmetics or white teeth or ceramics. They train them on technology, all the process, all the aspects of dentistry, not just one particular ceramist or crown and bridge. It dentures, bars, interlocks, veneers, function, occlusion, everything. So it's very comprehensive. That's why they call them masters.
And not to overgeneralize, but is it safe to say a dental laboratory technician in Germany could be described by Mercedes, Audi, Porsche, and an American-trained dental laboratory technician would be best described as Chevy, Pontiac, Chrysler?
Not really. I don't think so. But, the fact that you're good and mechanically, it doesn't make you a good or the best ceramist or the best aesthetic guy. Because you may be good in function, but you may not be the best ceramist because you're not artistic. So mechanics you can teach people, and that's what CAD/CAM does too. CAD/CAM is mechanical, it's machine, it's automated machines that do a great job, almost like Germans do, right? Without the humans. So no, I don't think that's what you need. I think what you need to do to succeed in this business, if you want to be really outstanding, is to be in a people business, understand people's minds, their heart, and deal with their hard emotions, because as you know in sales, it's not about what you say, it's like how much you care, right? So you have to connect with people and help them with their problem. I call myself, somebody asked me, what's your title? I said, well, I'm a PPS. PPS is a professional problem solver. That's what I am. I mean, I'm not a lab, I'm in people business. I help people to get what they want with whatever they're stuck. So
and I am out of time, and I'll tell you what, I think it would be so cool to be running a dentist 5 years from now and saying, dude, you were the one who turned me on to Pinhas Adar. I mean, awesome. I think you're an amazing man. I hope you get some of your videos up on Dental Town just so that more people get to know you. You're a legend, and you're amazing, and thank you so much for spending an hour with me today.
Awesome. Thank you, and it's an honor, and all the best, and hopefully we'll meet again person to person, all right? Thanks so much.
I just flew over your house Sunday coming back from...
I was up
there waving at you.
I didn't see you. I was in Israel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, have a great day, buddy.
Thank you. And send me that information about your web guys so I can send them, and then we can do some DVDs on your site as well.
I will, absolutely. His name's Howard Goldstein. He lives in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And, yeah, I would... Dennis, it was Zig Ziglar who said, humans need deodorant and motivation every day. You need it every day. And it's many careers are tough, but dentistry is a tough career. Yes. And dentists always need, they need technical information, but they need inspiration. It's why I do my show daily. I do it 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because I'm always thinking, amazing. if they can just listen to something, they're free. If they can listen to something, just get a little fired up about anything, that just helps them turn life into a long, successful marathon instead of little short-term sprints, then stop, and then a little sprint, then a jog. I like to get amazing people like you. In fact, if any of your mentors, if someone's could be a mentor of yours, I want to podcast them too, because I think dentists need a dose of daily inspiration to pump them up to get through the day.
Well, if you like, we can do a program on that if you like, and then you can tape it, and then your viewers actually can listen to it. The strategies and techniques you can do to work on yourself daily before you get to see your patients, how to mentally prepare yourself, how to be more resilient, more compassionate, because those are the keys to success. It's not the machines you buy. It's how you think and how
Absolutely.
It's amazing. So we can do another show like that if you like. So think about that.
Absolutely. No, yes. When you're ready, you let me know.
I'm ready anytime.
Okay, buddy. Set it up, Ryan. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Peace.